and gentlemen, I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well. It's come full circle, my friends. It's come full circle. Mostly due to the fact that the far left media is finally saying, "Oh, by the way, we were tricked." How people were tricked, Democrats were tricked about the U.S. economy and all that great stuff, right? Like this was not the reason why voters, voted for Trump in droves because we all knew the economy was in shambles. But the Politico has gone out and said this, right? They've said this analysis: how Democrats were tricked into believing the economy was strong, right? Former U.S. Comptroller Eugene Ludwig. Boy, yeah, you love to see it, right? It all comes full circle. It's just like, oh, by the way, they're lying, and oh, by the way, no, they were telling the truth. You love to see it. And of course, Devin Dolan says, who could have tricked them? Surprisingly strong economy shows robust growth and before election. Maybe you, Politico, were the ones also tricking it. You were also the ones that were trying to the American people and saying, oh, it's all great, it's fantastic. And then, of course, you have people saying, what's wrong with the economy? It's you, not the data, and all that great stuff here, too. It's hilarious. Really, it's hilarious. And, of course, we have this here as well, it says inflation heats up, adding pressure on Trump over vow to lower prices. Guys, it's only been a few weeks. We can't, what are we doing here? I do think that Trump has a very rough road ahead. I mean, he said he's not doing super well on the arrest. He wants them to be upped more, 3 times more. So we'll see on how that goes, right? So he has a long road ahead, but he's only been in office for 3 weeks. Goes on to say here from Politico, it says voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong. Now, I don't want to throw and give Politico any credit here because Politico has been known to be funded by the USAID for millions of dollars because you were trying to be forced to push propaganda onto the American people. So I don't know about you, but it seems to me that you are not to be trusted. But we're going to read this and try to explain on why why you guys were lying this entire time. So without further ado, here we go. It says, before the presidential election, many Democrats were puzzled by the seeming disconnect between economic reality as reflected in various government statistics and the public's perceptions of the economy on the ground. Many in Washington bristled at the public's failure to register on how strong the economy really was. They charged that right-wing echo chambers were coming voters into believing entirely preposterous narratives about America's decline. Goes on to say here what they rarely considered was whether something else might be responsible for the disconnect. Whether, for instance, government statistics were fundamentally flawed. Whether the numbers supporting the case for broad-based prosperity were themselves misrepresentations. What if, in fact, darker assessments of the economy were authentically tethered to reality? Here's the thing. The American people knew the economy was not right. It was not great. And how many of you, such as you, Politico, were lying to the American people on, how the economy was doing great. Because you guys all said, oh, they're conspiracy theorists, they're liars, they're not telling you the truth. And the statistics says otherwise. We're saying the stats are not showing the true reality of what's been going on. And you guys kept on pushing the narrative. You, Politico, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, all of you news outlets were lying to the American people, saying it was all great and fantastic because you had to protect your great overlords, the Democratic Party, because you guys are probably being funded by the Democratic Party. Let's be honest here. We already news reports came out of MSNDNC was part of the Democratic arm anyways. So, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like you guys were all part of it as well, and you were orchestrating it, trying to lie to the American people. That's the reason why Donald Trump got overwhelmingly a huge amount of votes, because, you guys were lying the entire time. Goes on to say, on some level, I relate to the underlying frustrations. Having served as comptroller of the economy during the 1990s, I spent substantial chunks of my career exploring the gaps between public perception and economic reality. particularly in the realm of finance. Many of the officials I befriended and advised over the last quarter century, members of the Federal Reserve, those running regulatory agencies, many leaders in Congress, have told me they consider it their responsibility to set public opinion aside and deal with the economy as it exists by the hard numbers. For them, government statistics are thought to be as reliable as solid facts. In recent years, however, as my focus has broadened beyond finance to the economy as a whole, the disconnect between hard government numbers and popular perception has spurred me to question that faith. I've had the benefit of living in two realms that seem rarely to intersect, one as a Washington insider, the other as an advisor to lenders and investors across the country. Toggling between the two has led me to increasingly be skeptical that the government's measurements properly capture the reality defining unemployment, wage growth, and the strength of the economy as a whole. Well, that's what the American people and many of the so-called right wing were telling you. We're saying like, no, it's not great. There are horrible things that are going on here that is saying, well, look, the price of eggs has gone up, which right now the price of eggs are up because of the bird flu, which is going to go down, I think, soon, which Donald Trump can't control the bird flu. Let's be honest there. So we can't say the bird flu is due to Biden because, well, how does he control the bird flu? So you can't blame that on him. But everything else, where he cut the pipeline and all that other stuff and energy stuff, all that stuff all the prices went up, and everything was a mess. And you, the media, Politico, lied to the American people. So I don't know what else to tell you. These numbers have the time and again suggested to many in Washington that unemployment is low, that wages are growing for middle America, and that to a greater or lesser degree, economic growth is lifting all boats year upon year. But when the traveling country, I've encountered something very different. Cities that appeared increasingly seedy, regions that seemed derelict. Driving into the office each day in Washington, I noted a homeless encampment fixed outside the Federal Reserve itself, and then I began to detect a second pattern outside D.C. alike. Democrats, on the whole, seemed much more inclined to believe that what the economic indicators reported. Republicans, by contrast, seemed more inclined to believe that what they were seeing with their own two eyes. Well, I think it's not with their own two eyes. It's what people have dealt and seeing on their list. When you bought things, everything was very expensive. It's still expensive. Meat's still expensive. Everything's still expensive. It's not great. And it's going to take time for the inflation and everything to go down. You got to enact some of these things. These policies have to go in place. Bills and other things have to go act, and this doesn't happen overnight here. You can't just have these things just come and go down immediately. You have to. It takes time, and it took time for Biden to take serious damage, and it only took about a year and a half, and things started to go down very rapidly. So again, it goes on to say here that pretty much what it shows here is I don't believe those who went into this Apache election taking pride in the unemployment numbers understood that the near record low unemployment figures. The figure was a mere 4.2% in November, counted homeless people doing occasional work as employed. That's odd. But the implications are powerful. If you filter the statistics to include as unemployed people who can't find anything but part-time work or who make poverty wage roughly $40,000 to $25,000, the percentage is actually 23.7%. In other words, nearly 1 of every 4 workers is financially unemployed in America today. Hardly something to celebrate. Yeah, and that's kind of what we were telling you guys, right? That this was not good, that unemployment was extremely far down, and everything was way too expensive, and nobody was hiring others. And when we were telling you that the businesses were closing due to the economy, you're saying, oh no, it's not the economy that's the problem. It's something else entirely. Well, let me tell you this, all right? What was going on is that you had 2 things hitting the businesses. So you had to explain exactly why that was. So either you have the amount of crime in liberal and far-left cities causing these businesses in other places to close, which was one of the reasons. And then you also had a lot of the businesses closing due to the economic problems. I mean, Google did not want to continue in San Francisco because it was too expensive and they couldn't afford it. A lot of these things were happening, but none of you media outlets, Politico, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, never recovered these places that were closing in these areas. And the only thing that Democrats could possibly do was say, okay, well, This is closing due to crime. Well, that hurts the Democrats, so they can't say that. Well, this is closing to the economy. Well, this is hurting Joe Biden and the Democrats, so they can't say that. So the only other thing that they managed to do was lie to the American people and say, well, this is what's going on. As the picture is similarly misleading, and when examining the methodology used to track how much Americans are earning, the prevailing government indicator known colloquially was weekly earnings tracks full-time wages to the exclusion of both the unemployed and those engaged in typically lower-paid part-time work. Today, as a result, those keeping track are led to believe that the median wage in the U.S. stands at roughly $61,000. But if you track everyone in the workforce, that is, if you include part-time workers and unemployed job seekers, the results are remarkably different. Our research reveals that the median wage is actually a little more than $52,000 per year. Think of that. American workers on the median are making 16% less than the prevailing statistics would indicate, which we've already went over this before. But this is the thing. The media lies to you, all right? The media lies, and they prop it up as, happy fun time, right? It's really disgusting. This is the reason why the media is dying, guys. The media is dying because people have been seeing their lies and nobody's buying it anymore. This is the reason why Politico is not doing well. This is the reason why CNN is not doing well. MSNBC is not doing well. Is because you guys lie. Lie, 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 and that's all you do. And until you stop lying, which you seem to not be doing here, you're going to keep on collapsing. You're going to keep on falling, and we love to see it. Time for independent news to take over and throw you guys into the dumpster fire because you can't be trusted. You never were. And when you are lying to the American people and you're proving to yourselves that you're lying to the American people, it shows that what cannot be trusted. Oh. And of course, we have this here as well. Harris is writing a dream economy into the election and may be too late for voters to notice. And then, of course, there's this. They're also probably saying this as well, guys. They're probably saying this as well because USAID, they're being paid for, right? They were being paid by USAID. So they're probably doing this, to make us be more credible. So, of course, they also said here, liberals dreamed of this economy for decades. What if voters don't like it? Again, Politico, surprisingly strong economy shows robust growth in final report before election. So, yeah, you guys were the ones that were lying, right? You guys were the idiots that were saying that this was going on. And, of course, you got caught red-handed. And now you're trying to backtrack on it because, you don't get that USAID funding anymore. $8 million just gone, stashed away from you because, lies. So, yeah, you love to see it. Politico coming out and saying, oh, well, we lied. And that's all there is to it. All right, guys, that's our video. Guys, gotta share. As always, take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted. Cause it's algorithmic disease, the social media.